It's the Big Kid Station, first thing on a Friday morning, and it is a pleasure to welcome onto the show right now a man who, over the course of the past 4 decades, has sold millions of records, performed across the globe, won many an award, and has also just released his autobiography, King of Overthinking. It's the legend that is Mr. Peter Cox.
Cheers, Jeff. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm fine, yourself.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
I think I said to you before we started the chat today, whilst the last song was playing, you're going to be keyed in everywhere, basically, to quote the Beatles with this one man show. New Brighton, you're going to be coming to Runcorn. We'll get onto that a little bit later on. But first, I just want to start with the book, which is why you're out doing these shows. Why now with the autobiography?
Well, the autobiography is almost a side effect of the tour. So if you'd ever told me I'd be writing an autobiography, I would have thought that was quite unlikely. But these tours often have a book attached. The content of the book is at least some of what we'll be talking about on the shows.
One of the things that I was going through the press pack around the book is the fact that you say you never chase fame, but found it anyway. Was this the dream?
No, it wasn't my dream anyway. When we finally got into the studio, as
Yeah.
low rent as it was, and we were making our first album, that was as far as my ambitions had ever really gone. Finally, I'm actually making a record, and the record's going to come out. And that was the dream for me. And over the course of the next 40 years, I've had a blast, obviously, and now I don't have any complaints, but singing in front of a band, songs that I've written, that was all I ever really wanted to do. I never thought for a moment about being, in inverted commas, famous.
Well, let's focus on some of the mega positives, and there are so many when it comes to your career. Your debut album comes out in the mid 1980s, goes on to sell 1.5 million copies worldwide, with songs that still sound amazing to this very day. I mean, I was blasting "We Close Our Eyes" only first thing this morning as well, and alongside "Call Me." I mean, it must have just been absolutely unbelievable because it did explode for you, didn't it? It was 85 when that came out.
Yeah, We Close Our Eyes was the first single, top five, when, as I say, we had just come out of a little basement studio in London where we'd made the album. And my expectations, which again illustrate my personality,
Yeah.
were that we might get into the lower 90s in the chart, and we do some gigs and we build a following. And of course, that all went out of the window on day one when we got immediate radio support and found ourselves with the top 10 single. So, as you say, that all happened really, really quickly. And I found myself flying all over the world. From Japan, we flew to America to meet Sylvester
I
Stallone.
was just going to get to that because you go from, you're thinking it might get to 90 in the charts. You
Yeah,
with Slice Alone. I actually want to ask you about that because when I spoke to Richard, your partner, he was telling me a story about you being in the studio with Sly.
well, that's what's to be admired about the guy. He had obviously heard We Close Our Eyes, maybe Call Me by then. And he thought, I'd like to get these guys involved in the soundtrack of Rocky IV. But yeah, he came to the studio and met with us. And he wasn't there for very long. And it was great to meet him, obviously, because I'm a
Yeah.
film fan. So that was amazing.
I might cause a problem now between the members of Go West with this one, but I vaguely recall when Richard was talking about it, he was saying about there was options to do different tunes, and he mentioned one of the main montage ones, Hearts on Fire, might have been
Yeah.
a possibility for you. I don't know whether or not Richard was saying you chose to have your one on rather than do the cover version.
Now I have to take the blame here, or responsibility. We were invited to record Hearts on Fire for the soundtrack. I wasn't crazy about the song, but we had agreed to do it, so we recorded it. I sang it, Richard would say, because it's a phrase he could hear my teeth breaking as I'm singing the song because I clearly wasn't a fan of it. And astutely, when the writers heard our finished article, they said that you can hear that the singer doesn't like the song.
Well, hey, the song made it into the film, didn't it? And it's there for all to see. What we'll do is we'll just take a short break, Peter. We'll play one of your tunes right now, and then we'll come back.
Sure.
The Big Kid Station on this Friday morning, still joined by the legend that is Peter Cox. We were just talking then before that tune played about your association with the Rocky movie. A few years later, we go from Rocky to Richard Gere with the Pretty Woman soundtrack, and this is a tune which is just still absolutely everywhere to this day. How did that come about?
We had a difficult second album. It's a story you've heard 1,000 times. And fast forward to, I don't know, 89, 90, somewhere around about there. The guy that had originally signed us in 1984 now rescued us from oblivion we found ourselves in LA writing the songs for what would become our Indian Summer album. One of the first songs that we wrote was The King of Wishful Thinking. And with his typical confidence, Richard said, well, that's a hit. And I would never say that. But he called the label and said, we've written a hit. And the label said, oh, you've written a hit, have you? And then we sent it up and they said, oh, actually, we think you might have written a hit. And in a perfect example of right place, right time, it was just around that time that they were putting together the soundtrack for the film. And Richard was dead set against being involved because at that time, the film wasn't called Pretty Woman. It had a working title of 3000, which, if you've seen the film, you may or may not remember, is the amount of money that Richard Gere's character offers to Julia Roberts' character for the pleasure of her
I didn't know
company.
that. Didn't know that.
Yeah, but Richard's looking at 3000 and he thinks it's a bad science fiction film. What's Richard Gere done in the last 10 years? And I don't even know who Julia Roberts is. I don't want to get involved with this film. Thankfully, he was wrestled to the ground and persuaded that this was a good idea. And yeah, that was our first US top 10 single.
I was going to say, it's interesting to hear you, because you mentioned before with the first song, you thought it might just scrape in the charts at 90. I was going to ask specifically about the King of Wishful Thinking, because that is such a great song. And I always think to myself sometimes with artists, do you realize when you've created it, wow, we've got something special here. It doesn't sound like you did with that particular one. It's just another song, because it still sounds perfect to this day.
Thank you very much. No, Richard did. Richard, again, my take is you can have talent, you can have a great song.
Yeah.
You can have all that going on, but you still need luck, even then. And that's what I meant when I said about right place, right time. Because if we had been in a different fate stage with the making of the next record, or if Pretty Woman had already come and gone, we wouldn't have had that opportunity. So yeah, I thought it was good, but I just know from experience before. I'll give you an example. We recorded a song for a film called White Men Can't Jump, Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson. And every other artist on that soundtrack was black. We were the only white artists. And the director of the film didn't want us anywhere near that film. But our A&R man, who'd always seen us as a blue-eyed soul act, stuck his chin out and said, no, we're going to have Go West on this soundtrack. So the album came out. We're tucked away at the end somewhere in the running order. And we're not in the film at all. So when Pretty Woman came out, and if you've seen the film, you might remember that we're right at the beginning of the film. Richard Gere is driving a car down from the Hollywood Hills. There's no dialogue. There's nothing to distract you from a whole verse and a whole chorus of our song right at the beginning of the film. And it doesn't get any better than that in terms of film and music exposure. But that's not something we had any control over. We delivered the song, and then someone else somewhere said, we'll put that song in here.
But anyway, so you get onto the one-man show. You can see Peter in our area, Runcorn, the 27th of September at the Brunley Theatre, New Brighton, the 31st of October, and actually, before all that, Port Sunlight on the 15th of April. So what can we expect from these shows then?
I'll be talking about some of the stuff we've talked about here. The way the songs came about, what was written, what went right, what went wrong, how it was making the videos, people I met. So there's loads of background stories and stuff looking forward to talking about. And there'll be a little bit of music, some acoustic performances of songs that people might remember. So yeah, that's what it's going to be.
Well, I'm going to get myself down to check out one of the shows, Peter, and we'll leave it there for this morning. But once again, thank you very much for coming on the show, and thanks for the music.
Thanks very much, Jeff.
Keeping us dancing for all these years. Peter Cox, everyone, thanks for coming on the show.